Okay, I want to put this on the record. Years ago, I spent a lot of time finding the chart of Jesus Christ, and I did it, and I'm kind of proud of it. But I want to put it on a blog on my website. And so that's what the rest of this show is all about. It's about how I did it, how I found the chart of Jesus. The technical stuff, some of it you may not understand. I'm going to go kind of fast on some of it. But this is the chart. And this is the man. And he is real. And it reminds me a little bit of some of the Woodstock people, like the Beatles. Look at that. Here's the moon on Neptune. Beautiful. And it trines Uranus. Woodstock had Neptune trine Uranus. I got it too. It's a mystical, magical trine. And here was Venus involved, and Pluto and Mars. And this is just a gorgeous, when you see this chart, and you're used to reading charts, wow. This is certainly a master. I had a lot of help with this work. I'm not the only one looking for Jesus' chart. Don Jacobs, Methodist minister turned astrologer Moby Dick, was my friend in Honolulu. Helped me get started a lot. And here's what it comes down to. Here's some basic facts, okay? Is the wise men, the astrologers, were looking for a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Here's Jupiter and Saturn together. And they get together, and when they do, it starts a cycle. Nostradamus worked on that cycle. And this happened 3 times in 6 and 7 BC. We know that's when Jesus was born because Herod died about 4 BC. So I wasn't on 0, no. The question is, which of the 3 Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions was the one that Jesus was born on? Now, it turns out that some people got quite close to this and came into springtime, 0007 BC. Like Moby said, the shepherds were all sleeping in the fields. They weren't. So it was springtime. Anyway, what this came down to was the use of progressions. Okay? Now, this is a very technical thing. Moby Dick didn't know about projections. He didn't use progressions. It's a very sensitive technique. I do it on all your charts when I do your personal chart work. And what happens is, it's based on a year for a day. The 10th day is like the 10th year. 20th day is like your 20th year. 2 of the most sensitive things, and the easiest thing to read in a person's chart is the midheaven, the top of the chart, and the rising sign, the ascendant over here. Both of these are the 2 most important parts of your chart. Rising sign is the body, the ascendant, ASC. Midheaven, MC, where the top is a public U. Now, the progressed midheaven moves. In everybody's chart, it moves exactly 1 degree per year. Exactly. The rising sign, the ascendant, is not exact. Neither is the sun. They move about 1 degree, but not exact. The midheaven's exact. Now, one thing we know about Jesus' life is he started preaching about age 30, and they knocked him off at age 35 or 36 or something. So, what happens is, Jupiter the midheaven comes along here, tick, 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 tick. This is how I timed the chart. And here, if we count this as 12, well, and he's age 31, the progressed midheaven hit Jupiter. Jupiter is the teacher. He went out and he said, I'm the professor, I'm the teacher. I got degrees from Alexandria. And he started his ministry. Tick, 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 tick. The progressed midheaven goes 1 degree per year. Then it hits Saturn. 4 years after he starts his ministry and his public preaching campaign, 4 years later, the progressed midheaven hits Saturn, and there he is on the cross. This is the essential first step in finding the correct chart of Jesus Christ. Now, there's more to it. April 15th, 07. So I want to check up on some other things. I looked at his death, for instance, and but I wanted to look at these mystical, magical planets, Uranus and Neptune, and what's going on with them. So I went back with, Moby and I were the first to get computers that could do these accurate charts way back. So that's why we were on this ancient stuff. Anyway, let me show you. Just an interesting sideline. We had a club in Honolulu, met at my house. Moby's chart, he had 27 Taurus, 12 minutes rising. He had the Pleiades rising at 27 degrees. I have the Pleiades rising at 2850. And the chart I found for Jesus that was most likely had the Pleiades rising at 29 Taurus. Wow, what does that mean? Nice article on Moby in the Honolulu Advertiser about him doing the chart of Jesus. What's the date here? December. December 5th, 1973. Anyway, this little blog is dedicated to Moby, my friend. He wrote a little neat book called Astrology's Pew in Church. When I first started doing some of this stuff, I had to hand calculate. Next thing I wanted to know is where the new moons and full moons were in this time period, the first part of 7 BC. So I hand calculated them and made a list. And I wanted to look and see if any of these full moons or new moons hit that 4 or 5 degrees where Uranus and Neptune were. And sure enough, here it was. It was April 29th. There was a new moon at 5 Taurus, 58. Wow. 5 Taurus, 58. That sets that thing off nice. That's Now later, it turned out that I could get copies from the computer and get the exact stuff going, which I did. Here's January 07 through June 07, and so I was going through the whole thing, looking for the sun and moon longitudes to figure the full moons and new moons, which is how you do it. And sure enough, I came onto that April lunation again. And, at 5 Taurus, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal because of the way it sets up in Jesus' chart. Okay, here's Jupiter, Saturn, and I went through all of those and turned out it favored the April chart when it was closest. Now, when you look at the chart of Jesus, here's Neptune at 4 Scorpio. Here's Uranus at 4 Pisces. This new moon was in Taurus, right here, and it trined his Pluto-Mars, sextiled his Uranus, opposed his Neptune. It set off the 4-5 degree Neptune-Uranus trine. That's the mystical, magical part of his chart. So that means that if he was born April 16th, April 15th, and April 29th was the new moon. And he's like 14 years old, and the magical, mystical part of his chart clicked in, and a wise man came, picked him up, took him off to Alexandria. That started his mystical training, which goes on for 30 years because of this lunation. Interesting thing, nobody, getting down the exact times, the dates of the Jupiter-Uranus thing, there's a book called Urantia. Urantia book was written back in the 20s, no computers, and the guy had the 3 conjunctions listed exactly. There was a lot of people that were real close to this, but I nailed it, folks. Jesus had the sun in Aries. That's his father, the guy with sharp tools working wood. Look, the moon conjuncts Neptune and opposes, some of his stuff. Here's the priests. Neptune's the ruler of the 11th. Here's the church, and so they, he had some enemies, but he also had some friends. His partners were Pluto, Mars. Here's the fisherman, course, here's the guys that chased him down and put him on a cross, too. But, I even did some of the death charts came up pretty good. They said there was an eclipse on the day that he was on the cross. But I got a lot of charts here. I tried out a lot. And when I wound up, I didn't really realize I was winding up with 29 Taurus. Amazing, huh? The Pleiades. Most mystical, magical spot in the sky. And Jesus had it rising. Amazing. Jesus was an astrologer, not a priest.